Turning to our top story this hour, the UK government has officially eased further restrictions for vaccinated citizens, but only from America and the European Union, but not France. People fully vaccinated from the United States and European Union will be allowed to travel to England without having to quarantine on arrival. But the British Transport Secretary Grant Shapps has announced this update with a tweet. This policy will come into force from the 2nd of August. The Transport Secretary has further added that the vax traveller will still need to do the usual pre-departure tests before arrival, but the rules for France will be different. The British government is concerned over the persistent presence of the beta variant in France, which is believed to be more resistant to vaccines. Britain is in the midst of another wave due to the Delta variant. Although case numbers have dropped over the past week and the vaccine drive has seen more than 70% of adults fully jabbed, the devolved governments of Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland have set their own health policies and travel rules, but all four countries are in talks over a UK-wide COVID policy. Our correspondent Chris Jones is joining us live on this broadcast. Chris, as we just heard, American and European vaccinated travellers to the UK will be allowed entry and would not have to go through quarantine, whereas vaccinated people from red list countries such as France or India would not be let in. Can you help us understand the reasoning behind the UK government's decision?
Well, like you said, we heard from the COVID operations team on Monday. They announced that those from the EU and the US who are fully vaccinated with an FDA or an EMA COVID-19 vaccine will be allowed to travel to England and not have to quarantine on arrival. They will have to still test, though, and Grant Shapps said that this is a step in the right direction. When he announced it, he said that we're helping people reunite people living in the US and European countries with their family and friends in the UK. And like you said, that will go ahead on the 2nd of August at 4 a.m. But for countries like France, like you mentioned, the UK government says that their kind of persistent presence of the beta coronavirus variant means that they will stay on the Amber Plus list. Remember, the UK is operating on a traffic light system, green meaning that countries can travel with only testing. Amber countries must isolate for 10 days, and those on the red list cannot travel at all. So France will stay on that Amber list, so even if they're fully vaccinated, they will have to quarantine when they arrive in the UK. And as far as red list countries are concerned, the UK classes them as too much of a coronavirus risk to allow people from those countries into England and the rest of the UK. And the rest of the UK is still deciding whether to kind of adopt these measures too, with Nicola Sturgeon, the Scottish Prime Minister, saying that her government is going to consider all the options and make a decision when it's ready.
Does this not mean that even vaccinated British people living abroad, besides those in the Amber List countries, would not be allowed entry back into the UK?
Well, it's very much kind of up in the air. This has just been decided over the past 24 hours or so. The kind of line from the government is that those who have been kind of vaccinated in EU countries and in the US with an EMA or FDA approved coronavirus vaccine will be allowed into the UK with just testing. But like I say, those in France, they're worried about the presence of the beta coronavirus variant. So anyone, even if they're fully vaccinated with those approved coronavirus vaccines, will still have to isolate when they arrive in England.
And despite the exemption, are there any additional checks or measures that vaccinated travellers would have to undergo when coming to the UK?
Well, it's like I say, it's from the EU and the US. They if they're fully vaccinated, they can come to England and not have to isolate. However, they still will have to undergo a PCR test, and that it still could cause some issues for some who might not be able to afford that test. The CEO of EasyJet, Johan Lundgren, said that even though this will these kind of easing of restrictions will allow many people to come to England and reunite with family and friends, there are still those who might not be able to afford that kind of PCR test when they arrive in England. But as far as isolation goes, there will be none of that for those who are fully vaccinated from the EU, excluding France and the US.
Thank you, Chris Jones, for joining us and for your insights there.